America. I grew up in the land where phrases like, I have a dream, meant something. I grew up where I believed that freedom existed, that's what I was fighting for. I believed that the Statue of Liberty was a symbol of our liberty, that we all came from all over the world because we didn't want to live underneath the monarchy, that our founding fathers made America the land of the free and the land of the brave. I don't care what you say to me. I don't care if there's a shadow government or there's people out there that's trying to take it away from us. This is America, damn it, and I'm taking it back.
And now your host, Tere Joyce.
Welcome to the Freedom of Joyce show here on American Freedom Radio. Today is Tuesday, December 12th, 2017. So it's 12/12/2017 today. My guest today is John Urwin. John Urwin was mentioned on my last show here that happened this last Thursday with Miles Johnston. And we'll go into this a little bit farther, but I'm going to give you just a little bit of a setup. John was mentioned during my broadcast, and his story, or some of his truth, was mentioned on air. But when I uploaded the YouTube video, John made a comment that he was himself, and that some of the information wasn't correct, and he really wanted to have an opportunity to come onto the show today and get the truth out there. Now I did say the date; it's 12/12/2017. I personally, after responding to John's comment and speaking with him through email, I went in and started to research him and became very interested in his life and what had happened. And I think that there are things that he's saying and was saying back then. And John has spoken the farthest record back I can see so far on YouTube, but we'll find out for sure, is probably he's been talking in this media for 7 years now, and I had no idea. But some of the things that he's saying are extremely relevant to what's happening today. And I think that hopefully this will open our mind and give us some solutions on how to deal with our current situation. I'd like to welcome to the show John Urwin. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, Terry. Thanks for the invite on Freedom Radio.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, where do we start?
Well, you know what? Let's start with you. Because see, my audience, or the people that listen to the Freedom of Joyce show, we often talk about, secret programs and.
Okay, well, let's start with who I am.
Okay, let's start there.
Okay, my name is John Irwin. I am 79 years of age. I was born in 1938. And I was, like you say, 79 last November. 65 years ago, I was called up for national service. And when I was called up for national service is when things start to go really bizarre. Instead of just doing my national service, I ended up with a special forces group and doing operations throughout the Middle East. So that's where it all started. And at the beginning of your program on Thursday, Miles Johnson did mention some of these things, but he starts off where he actually says to you, don't believe anything I say. Well, he's correct. For a start, he starts off where I was born, how I was born. All of that is wrong. I was born in 1938, not 39. My mother was not pregnant through artificial means. My mother left my father when she was pregnant. She went down to Yorkshire. I don't know if you're aware of Yorkshire. It's about 80 miles from where I live now. There was some kind of dispute between her and my father. My father had no idea she'd left. He did put an advert in the paper trying to find out where she was. That bit was true. But my mum went down to his sister's in Yorkshire. Then she took my mother over to see his brother in a place called Middlesbrough, and that's when I was born. I was born then. My mother came back to Newcastle about a week after I was born, you see? So That's the true story. I had nothing to do with the military. My mom wasn't artificially inseminated, and all of that was a fantasy.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up for us. Can you go a little bit farther into your life now?
Yeah, yes, of course I will.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, just after I was born in 1938, as you're aware, 2 years later the war started, the Second World War. So I was brought up during the war in a place called Byker in Newcastle, the northeast of England, not far from the city centre. The things were very, very hard in those days prior to the war. My mum and dad lived in a rented accommodation, which was a terrace house upstairs, 2 rooms, only gas, no electricity, only one radio station, where water was downstairs in the backyard, and so was my toilet. So I had nothing, literally nothing. And then rationing came along and made things even worse. So when I was born, when I got to the age to understand, when I was about 3 to 4, my father always seemed to dislike us in some way. He was always picking on us and hitting us. And my dad was a rag and bone man. He had horses, but he also worked in a factory as a crane driver. And during this time, like I said, he treated me like muck, literally. And I have no idea why. So when I started school at 5 years of age, the war was still on. I used to leave school in the middle of, in the middle of the class because of bombs dropping and what have you. So I spent roughly 5 years in school. I left school when I was 14. I started work on a farm. I'm not an educated guy, which is going to be obvious. And I really wanted to be a mechanic. And that's where it all started. When I was working on the farm and I wanted to be a mechanic, I got a job in a garage. Wanted to serve my time as a mechanic. But I was treated like a tea lad. So my mum had actually, we moved from Byker up to a new house, which was like a palace. We had hot water, we had electricity and all that sort of thing. By then I was 16, going on 17. I told my mum the sort of problems I had at the garage. She said, I think when we calling up papers came, we had national service in those days. When national service came, my mum said, I think you should join the army. It may be the only chance you have to see the world. So that's exactly what I did do. So when I was called up for the army, we had to go through medical, we had to say what we wanted to be in. I wanted to be in REME, Royal Electrical Engineers. That wasn't so. Apparently that there was working regiments that nobody wanted to be in. So I was actually forced into one of those regiments called the Pioneer Corps. So when I actually joined up and went down to the training grounds, got my uniform and what have you to go through the training, I thought, what have I let myself in for? It was more like a 2 years prison sentence at hard labour. That's what it seemed like. So I was quite different from most of the lads in the sense that I never drank. My father was a drunk, and I hated it. I hated that, and I didn't drink. I never smoked. So when I was in the army, all the lads used to go down to Naffy. I didn't. I used to go down to the gym. I was a keep fit expert. I used to go down to the gym. So to cut a long story short, I was met in the gym by a sergeant during the training. I was told, I was asked if I wanted to do something a lot better than that, and I agreed. Later on, there was a massive lift of troops to the Middle East. I forgot all about the guy in the gym. Forgot all about him. I was destined to go to a place called Lebanon, Beirut, and places like that. On the way, there was 18,000 troops left England that night. We were heading towards the Middle East, and our engine on our plane was called a decoder. One of the engines called fire, and we had to land at Malta. When I landed at Malta, the orders had changed. I was now going to Cyprus. So when I got to Cyprus, after the first week or so in Cyprus, we were allowed to go down to the beach. When I got down to the beach, I was sitting on the beach with friends, and I had a rifle. We needed protection against the Yoka terrorists. So while I was guarding them, swimming, I was approached by an officer who asked us and reminded us on about the link back home during my training. That's where it all started. So from then on, I was picked to go on certain, I was picked up, took away to training grounds unknown to the army itself. Now, let's try and explain. Because I was with the working regiments, people were sent off to different regiments to do work, you see. And because of that, I could disappear, literally. So I was sent off on a working party, which I didn't arrive at that working party. I was then picked up, taken away to the base of Trudus Mountains there, where I was trained to be an assassin. Should I go any further with that?
Yeah, please do. I know that there's so much more to this because you meet another officer. I mean, I want to go through all of it. You know, what type of technique? I mean, you were, it was the machine.
Okay. Yeah. Well, again, this is where the story is bizarre.
Okay, let's go bizarre. I want to.
It's really bizarre. It's
okay. We can handle it.
No, don't forget now, I'm a young man who's not educated. I hadn't even seen a television set. So when I went out there, I had no idea where I was. I didn't know about Cyprus. I didn't know anything, literally. So I was taken to this huge hangar. When we got in the hangar, there was 3 men training. And they were training in such a way where I thought was quite odd. Now, don't forget, I hadn't seen television set. I hadn't seen people in the army training before. So at first I thought, well, that's very good. And I didn't know what to think of it at the time. So I was taken into an office at the end of the building, up a few stairs into this wooden office. The windows were all broken. The place was just a shambles. I could hear these guys, and I saw some turnips hanging on bits of string. And you say, what the hell? You know, what's the turnips there hanging on string for? So I noticed when they were attacking each other, it looked rather unusual, you know, because I'd done boxing and what have you. And I thought, well, that's strange. I've never seen anything like that before. So anyway, when I got in the office and sat down with this chap called Ken, now Ken was, as Miles did say, he was unusual in the sense he was a tall guy. He was 3 or 4 inches taller than me. He was thin-faced, pale. He had very long fingers. And he explained exactly what I was doing there, why I was there, and the sort of training I would have to go through.
Can we go back to Ken for a moment? Because there was a previous...
Anywhere like that. He was just unusual to me, you see.
In other videos, you said that you felt that maybe he wasn't human. Do you still feel that way about him?
Yeah, he was. When I say he wasn't human, and I did use the word out of this world, what I meant was, it was just like if I saw someone who was very, very clever at gymnastics and things like that, I would say that about that. You see, I would say, my God, he's clever. He's out of this world. You know, in other words, he's doing something that most people can't do. So I use that terminology.
I was just kind of curious because, like in the one, I mean, is this the guy that has the eyes, the shape? Because like, there's one video we talk about his eyes being shaped. blue.
Yeah, his eyes were big, round. Yeah, they were round. And sort of, yeah. And he had blue eyes. He used to do some rather strange thing. I found it a lot later on, what he was actually doing. He had a coin, this table was made of planks of wood, so it wasn't a smooth table by any means. It had knife marks on it and things like that. So, and he used to spin this coin, and he used to put his hand nearby it, and he used to keep spinning. It wouldn't stop until he put his finger on the top of it to stop it. And I was quite amused by that. But all the time he was doing that, he was talking to me, and he was explaining exactly why I was there and why I was picked. Now, he told us why I was picked, because I've never drank in my life, I've never smoked. I was a keep fit expert, and that's why they were very interested in me, you see. The fact that I never drank before in my life, you see.
Could the spinning of the coin and him talking to you at the same time, do you think that was a hypnotism? Was that a hypnotism technique, maybe?
No, it had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
I'll explain that as we go on.
Okay.
No, it was just a little habit used to get into, that was all.
Okay.
He explained everything in detail, exactly what I was going to go through, you see. And he said, now, what I'm going to try and explain to you, you will never experience this before, or you wouldn't have seen this before, and it's going to shock you, you see. So we'll go through a certain procedure to see how you react, see how you respond. Are you prepared to do that? And I said, yes. I said, that's why I'm here. But really, I didn't really have any inkling to what it really meant. But I was quite prepared to go through it. I didn't want to end up back at camp repairing airfields and digging trenches, you see. So anyway, he explained. And then he said, this is where we begin. And he started showing me photographs of disabled people who had been killed, people growing old and dying. And he kept on with this for quite some time, trying to tell me how useless life was, how pointless it was. You see, and I couldn't understand why he was doing this. So, like I said, he kept on producing films, people dying in really unusual ways. People have been killed during wars and what have you, and saying how useless life was. And no matter what, you're going to die. That's what he used to say. So he did this for a long, long time. I was getting really, really tired. To the point where I could understand what he was saying, and I could see life. He convinced us that life wasn't worth living. Really, he did. He says, you're going to get old, this is going to happen to you, this could happen to you, and eventually you're definitely going to die. That's one thing in life you can guarantee. You see, so he really poured that on to the point where I didn't want to live. So he had a service revolver, and he put it in front of us with a handle pointing towards me. I picked it up. I was so tired. I mean, a service revolver is fairly heavy. And I picked it up and I pointed to my head, ready to pull the trigger. And when I did that, he stopped us. He says, what the hell are you doing? So I was really confused now. So when I got to that stage, he said, now have a cup of tea, Geordie. So that's the slang from where I come from, you see. People up here are called Geordies because King George, when he first formed his first army up here, were called George's men, and they became Geordies. So that's where I got the name. That's where people up here are called Geordies. So he used to call us Geordie all the time. And he said, then he started again saying what my mum did, how she brought us into life, what life was for. Now, I don't want to go into that too much because I'm trying to get enough money together to make a film to go back over the last 2,500 years to tell you exactly what life is, how it was formed, what we're doing here, why we're here, how the planets operate, the whole thing. And that was programmed into me when I went through that that first initiation with Ken. Now, it started again where he was saying things like, you're perfect for the job because you've never drank. You are not contaminated in any way. Now, I didn't understand that until he said, this is what you'll be going through. So I'm cutting a lot of things out here, by the way.
Okay.
He said, this is roughly what you'll be going through, and this is the reason why. He says, first of all, he says, when you're in the battlefield, your biggest problem is fear. If you're suffering from fear and you can't control it, the likelihood you can make a lot of mistakes and you'll get killed. So we're going to control that for you. We're going to teach you how to control that. And I says, oh, that's fine. He says, well, when we said that you were perfect for the job, it wasn't the fact that you were physically fit, which is part of the course. But he says, you also never drank. You've never been contaminated. And I said, well, I don't understand that really. But he said, okay, let's explain. Let's show you this film. So I didn't see this in some of the interviews, and I never actually put this in other books. And the reason being was I didn't want people to know about it, to be quite honest, because it's so bizarre. So this is what we're going to do to, you were talking about the machine, because he told me about the machine. I said, what are these people doing down there? He said, I've not seen anything like that. And he said, it's called the machine. It's a special way, it's special techniques in combat. He says, and there's nothing magic about it. And when I say you don't punch, you don't kick, and you don't grab, that's for real. But people, when you say that, think, well, there must be some kind of magic involved, there's some kind of power. There isn't. I do use my arms, and I do use my legs, but we don't actually kick or punch. We don't have to. So again, I was really confused with that, just like you would be. And so they showed us a film, and the film was someone sitting in the same chair where I was sitting. And he had this pen, what looked like a pen, and they put this thing on this guy's head that looked like 6 bits of wire. That's all. It wasn't like a big helmet or anything like that. Just 6 wires with a little gadget stuck on the top. And he did something with the pen. Now, I couldn't see exactly what was happening to the guy. I could just see his reactions. And he sat there quite calm. His head dropped slightly. His arms never moved off the table. And then suddenly, he turned at the blue flame. Blue flames. He was burning. And the only thing that was left was his clothes. Then he showed us another one, another film, similar, started exactly the same way. But this guy died. He was whole. There was nothing wrong with him at all, to look at, I mean. But he was actually dead. His heart was pumping. He had, he looked as if he was alive, but he was brain dead. Right? He was brain dead. In other words, his soul and energy had left the body and hadn't returned. So they showed us that and said, this is what we want you to go through, but these guys were like that because somewhere along the line they had drank, and this was the contamination. It says, we know that. So we know that you don't drink, you've never drank, and so we are saying now, as long as you haven't touched any spirits whatsoever, this won't happen to you. So by then, my whole outlook, my whole attitude had changed. I was suddenly, I don't know, I felt as though I was growing up for some reason. I was starting to learn things very, very quickly because I did other things prior to that, you see, to make us feel very, very confident. So the first program was called Fear Elimination, but they used to explain to it, it's not actually fear elimination, it's fear control. But we call it fear elimination. So they put this device on my head, and he brought out this pen, which I saw in the film, and he started to twist it. I heard this very high-pitched whistling noise, which I wanted to put my hands on my head because of the noise, but he insisted that I kept my arms in front of us on the table. And there was one point where he actually got a hold of my hands to prevent us from doing it, you see. And as I did that, the sound got higher and higher to the point where it was probably like a dog whistle, if you like. I couldn't hear it anymore. And I felt certain vibrations in my body. And then the next minute I knew, they were offering us a cup of tea. And I said, well, what happened there? You know, he says, well, we've done it. I said, you've done what? He said, you've been through it. I says, what about this machine thing? I want to learn that. He said, well, that's what that was all about. He says, you know it now. I said, I know it. I said, I've never left this damn seat. How can I possibly know it? You see, he said, well, let's explain. We bypass your conscious brain and go straight into your subconscious brain. So it's a bit like sleepwalking. It says you actually got up from that chair, went down and trained with those lads downstairs. That's exactly what happened. So I'm sitting in a chair. I couldn't believe what he was saying. I'd been like that for 3 days. Had no idea. I says, I can't believe this. He said, well, pinch yourself. So I nipped myself and I was numb. And when I saw scratch marks on my arms, and it was about, you know, when you go to the dentist and they numb your mouth, my mouth was a bit like that, and there was some blood coming out of it. So I had a loose tooth at the back. And he says, have a cup of tea and relax and you'll be all right and you'll be able to stand up in a few minutes. So after that, cut a long story short, the next day, they had to prove that the information that had been put into my subconscious brain, the training, was there. So they took us down onto the shop floor, onto the, you know, where they were training, and they had certain weapons, rifles, even a machete. All these were real, knives and guns, and they attacked us with them. And I found, to the shock of me, I got the shock of my life, I could stop them. This sounds really bizarre, but it's true. I could stop them. And there was one point when I was stopping and I really wanted to kill him. I had this urge to kill. And they said, right, stop. And we want you to, it was always a cup of tea. Sit down and have another cup of tea, which I did. And they said, what's happening, Jody? I said, well, I'm not quite sure. I'm doing this, but I don't know how I'm doing it. He said, well, we pass your subconscious brain. Your conscious brain now has to learn that you know this. So this is the problem you're going to have, you know, for the next few hours. He says your conscious brain will accept it after a while, that information, that skill is there. So again, let's cut the story a bit short because I'll go on forever here. I found I could stop anything, literally. And now I'm jumping here. When Sean Stone came over here to make a film, which he's still doing, by the way, not what Miles said, he's still making a film, but it's not exactly the same as the book, by the way. I happen to be a 29-year-old American who's fighting ISIS in Syria. So,
okay, so it's a film based on a true story, a fictional character, but it's updated, but it's still following the same lines of your truth. Is that what it is?
It's not actually, you know, the program I went through is not in it, but it doesn't matter. I think it's a commercial thing, you see. Yeah. So again, that's not the end. It isn't. You know, it really gets really bizarre. I mean, really, really bizarre.
Well, One of the question I have, listening to you, talk about it and say what happened. Now, at the time when you went through you were with this man and you went through the whole program and you had all these skills downloaded in your subconscious. Was that the time that did you actually go past death during that episode?
No. Well, again, you don't do that. That never happened.
That never happened. You never died.
No, I didn't die at all. Let's explain. Okay, let's explain. This is where these people have a tendency to over-exaggerate everything. It is bizarre. I mean, really bizarre. So we're not getting away from the fact that people are going to find it very, very difficult to believe this. But let's explain why he thought that. Okay? Now, that was the first stage. The first stage was to find out how I would react, to see if I would recover from that first stage. In other words, I didn't burst into flames and die, right?
Right.
They knew I was good for the job, put it that way. You see, then they told us that there was another stage. And I said, what's the other stage for? I mean, I said, I know all the tactics, I know all the strategy, all of that's programmed into this. So, I'm a combat soldier now. I'm not a super soldier, by the way. So anyway, I wanted to know what this other program was, and they said, well, we want to give you the information of what's taking place in the world and why, and you'll have more reason then to do what you're doing. You'll understand why you're doing it. You're not just going out there to kill people because we want you to, or for the government, which you're not. We do everything because the government. We were against the government, the British government. We was a secret force within the army. This is why we belonged to different regiments. When we went out, supposed to be on working parties, we came back and we disappeared into ordinary regiments, you see.
So you were an army that was against the agenda of the Illuminati that your government was putting into place for the New World Order. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
So all of the government now, at that time, was under full control of the New World Order. Or every level of government throughout the whole of Europe is under the control of the New World Order. It's as simple as that. So I was being trained. I didn't know exactly then, at that time, when I was going through various different operations, until the last one, it was called Jalapa. Then I found out what we were really after. And the reason they didn't want me to know was just in case I was captured or anything like that, I wouldn't be able to tell them anything, you see?
Uh-huh.
So anyway, let's get to the next stage.
Okay.
First of all, I had to understand what life stood for, what it is, how we got here, what the hell it is we're doing here. You see, what life's all about. So they said they were going to let me see that. And I said, how on earth are you going to do that? They said, well, in a similar way to where we're programmed to train you to fight. I said, oh, okay, is this really necessary? Yeah. So you need to know exactly what life's all about. And why these people are, why the elite, well, they didn't use the word elite at the time, just why these creatures, they said, are taking over the world. We've got to stop them. So you need to understand exactly why they're doing this. And they use the terms, there's not just control of the world, they actually want to take the world. You see? And I said, okay. I said, so they're going to let me see for real what it's all about. I says, well, I really don't understand all of it. I have an idea where you're coming from. So they said, okay, we'll go through it. I said, right. Because there's nothing going to happen to you. We've just proved that through the first stage of this. That was called the one step beyond. The second stage. Okay? So again, the same procedure. I sat at the table with my hands in front of us, resting on the table. He sat directly opposite with this pen, and then it started, you see. This high-pitched whistle noise, exactly the same. Then, after a while, I felt as though I hadn't left again. I felt as though I'd been conscious all the time, which I hadn't. And they said, right, have a cup of tea. And they said, we're going to show you the pictures now. You're going to see, you're going to feel as though you're in a cinema. I says, okay, how are you going to do that? They said, well, what we want you to do after you've relaxed for a while is to remember how we taught you the combat, yeah? So, well, everything you've seen, everything that you're going to see was done through your energy, the energy that's in your body, not your soul. Your soul cannot leave the body. If it leaves the body, you die, you're dead. But through your energy, which has a signal, that's what we've been using, you see? And we can't send it, we can't use that energy in the way that we would like. It can only pick up on what is available at the time. Do you understand? It's like your TV set. The radio signals that's coming through, you can only get the stations that the radio or the TV is capable of picking up, you see?
Uh-huh.
What's within that vicinity, you see? So I wasn't quite sure what he meant with that until he told me to relax again and close my eyes. He put the thing back on my head, but this time pictures were appearing in my head with my eyes closed. And I opened my eyes quickly again when I saw them. I got such a shock. And he said, no, close your eyes again. And this time, don't open them, Jody. I want you to control it. You can. You need to switch on. You need to switch the fear off. So I sat for a while and concentrated. And that's exactly what happened. So this is what I'll only mention some of the things I saw, okay? Not all of them, because I want to get this film made. I want to try and get the backing. I want to try and sell my books to be able to do that, because it's going to be like a documentary that takes you back for the last 2,500 years and prove that everything you do know is a lie, a big lie. And we'll have to be so careful because people's lives revolve around that lie. They all make money preaching this lie, doing the lie, relying on the lie. So they're programmed to fight anything that comes along to disprove that lie. So people would say they want to know the truth, but once you start explaining the truth, you'll find that they really go against you, because it could destroy the whole life, the livelihood. You see. So anyway, I'll tell you some of the things I saw. One, I was seeing through the eyes of someone else, another being, someone else on another planet, as what I was told. But don't forget, my soul does not leave the body. When people die, the reason why I'm bringing this, it will explain how people have a near-death experience, you see. Now, when a person has a near-death experience, it's because he is really dying, and what he sees is the subconscious brain rewinding, in other words, deleting itself. And during this time, the blood has got oxygen in, which gets to the brain, which distorts that information. It really distorts it. Now, what happens as that death karma is taking place, the energy in that body starts to leave, but the soul is still in the body, otherwise you'll be dead. The soul starts to leave like a stream, it's very hard to describe. It's like a stream of light, which you can't see, humans can't see it. It's a stream of light, and as it gets higher, you're looking through, your subconscious is using it like a periscope. You're actually looking through it and looking down, so you can see people around you, see yourself, and that can be done at various different heights. It depends on where you are, you see. So, so what happens is they don't see that at the time. They see it when they get back, when the body starts to recover from that death experience, when they've been saved. So that's when they start to see it. during that period of time, when the body starts to correct itself, starts to get better, in other words, that's when you start to see it. But you think you're seeing it, you think that you were dead, but you weren't. It was just your energy leaving the body. So this is why people can see, looking down, even through a roof, look as though you're looking down on yourself and things around you. That is true. That's exactly what you're seeing. But it's only being reflected into your subconscious brain. And when you're coming to, you see this. You start to see it, the recording that's been recorded on your subconscious brain. You see it. That's when you see it, not during that struggle of fighting for life. You don't see it then. You see it when the body starts to recover. You see?
Okay. Yeah.
And to them people, it will seem really real. They'll feel as though they've been talking to their parents and things like that, because it's so bizarre. It's so real-like, you see. Anyway, that doesn't happen to me because I'm not really dying. Do you understand? My brain's not being affected by. I say I'm not a doctor, so I can't really use the right terminology. So when there's no oxygen, there's nothing happening to the brain. It's not being damaged in any way, and neither is my body. But this machine creates that death experience. So this is where I actually saw the past, the future, in part of the future. I wasn't able to see further than that because these planets weren't lined up for me to be able to do that. So you're picking up on other signals and you're seeing through the eyes of someone else that's got the same DNA as you, that's on another planet. So it sounds bizarre, no? So I actually saw, there was one point where I saw through the eyes of someone that appeared to be big, strong, lots of hairs on his arms, looked like something like a caveman, if you like, or something like a Bigfoot. And that lasted for only, I think it was less than 2 minutes. I saw other people making fires. I heard noises of strange animals. And that was it. It ended there. And then the next time it started again. I was in what I thought was like the 1900s, 1910, and this is another planet where life is more advanced than that planet. So you've got different planets with life that's in different stages of the advancement. In other words, you have like the caveman on another planet, you'd have life that's 2,000 or 3,000 years in advance of that. Then I went somewhere else and I saw a more up-to-date thing of advanced technology, but wasn't on this planet, you see. So there is other planets out there with different stages of the progress of life. It's not, you cannot go into the future here or the past here, because the future is here now. There's no future, there's no past on this planet. This is not an illusion, by the way. It's not a hologram. A hologram would never recognize itself as a hologram. So, you're being misled. This is for real. Life is for real. That's why you fight to stay alive. I've written poems about that, by the way, and I can send you some if you wish.
Sure.
Yeah. Again, life is very important, and you should know that. We all fight to stay alive. We struggle to stay alive, and everything on the planet kills everything, including the planet. So that's another thing we have to learn, that the fish eat the fish, we eat the fish, we eat animals, the animals eat other animals, the insects eat other insects, we eat plants which are alive, they drink, like water, like sunlight, they're alive. So everything we do, we kill. And we kill to stay alive. Everything does. That's the fact. You just look around you, it's there. You see, so life is the thing we've got to get over. How important life is, why you have children, and this is why I want to make this film. It'll take me back 2,500 years for what I saw, really saw. And I tell you how the planets operate. I can tell you what gravity is. I can tell you what life is. I can tell you who is in charge and what their plans are, what their real plans are. And it's not, these people have no magic. There is no magic out there. Believe us. That's why they need money and guns. If there was magic, they wouldn't need those things. And they do want to take over the world, and they do. If you look at the Georgia Guidestones, they're telling you, they love to tell you what they're going to do to you. You see, and it's true. That's exactly what they're planning now. They're going to bring the races together. They're going to destroy you. They're going to destroy the races, the cultures. They're going to destroy everything. They want the planet. They're going to get rid of us. So they've got the robots as well. And what you see on TV now, like Sophia, that's far more advanced than that. Even in 65 years ago, I was warned about synthetic creatures. They said I might come across one. The likelihood would be 50 to 1 or something that I might come, and this is how to deal with them. But they said they don't last because they haven't got any energy. They haven't got a soul and energy, so they only last a very short period of time, and they struggle trying to create them. They didn't have the technology at that time, you see. But let's go back to 16. I'll take you to one operation. It was called Operation Jalapa. We went to a place which is not on the map, by the way. The Israelis have wiped it off the map. You can still find it in the old maps. It's called Jalapa. It's in between Syria and Israel now. It's about 15, 20 miles east of Lebanon, a place called Jalapa. It's where not far from Mount Hermon, where the so-called fallen angels came. At the foot, at that particular base, it was a compound. It wasn't heavily armed. They weren't expecting anything. I met up with most of the 16 there, not all of them, because there was 4 or 5 of them who was acting as lorry drivers and helicopter, they bring helicopters in forward. And we were dropped off in Lebanon, and we made what we had to Jalapa. When we got to Jalapa, there was a compound there, and we waited for certain vehicles to arrive. In one of the buildings, in the big building, in the center of the compound, at the end of the building, was an office where they were meeting. Now, in that office, I saw, through binoculars, flags. And the flags were Israeli, the American flag, the British flag, and there was another flag. I'm not quite sure what it was. I couldn't see it properly, but there was another flag there. There was 4 or 5 men in that office at the time when we were watching, and I was told that certain objects were going to be brought there, or they were already there, they weren't sure, and we had to retrieve those objects. So the way we did it, we waited till these people, these high-ranking officers came. When they entered into the building and got to the room at the end of the building, into that office block at the end, when I was staring at them, one of my team, anyway, said, "What do you see, Jody?" And I said, "Well, I see 6 men or 5 men, I can't remember exactly." And they said, no, what can you see? I said, "I've told you I can see 5 or 6 men." And I said, "Look again." So I'm looking. He says, "There's 3 of them." I said, "3 of what?" He says, "Have a look." So they were walking around, and I couldn't see them properly until I sat down at the table. When I sat down, then it dawned on us what I was looking at. There was 3 guys three creatures there, who are. Yeah, I feel embarrassed even talking about it.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
They're Nephilim in human bodies, and you can tell by the shape of their face and and the way they were dressed. So
how is their face and their dress different? That would define them as being Nephilim.
They had rather big noses and big ears, and they really stood out. When I got the binoculars training them. I have to be careful what I say here, because the truth won't set you free.
Okay. Big noses and big ears. And what kind of clothes were they wearing?
Well, they were just wearing ordinary suits, ordinary clothes. One had an Arab sort of dress on them.
Okay.
And but again, when I say that's what they look like, you see. So anyway, to cut a long story short, one of our, not my team is 4 people. Another team of ours, one of them actually got in through the toilets. The toilets were right up against the fence near the main entrance, and one of our lads got underneath the fence into the toilet, because on an odd occasion one of their troops would come over into the toilet, you see, and he'd walk out, and they were really slubbing. They were dragging his rifle across the ground and fastening his trousers up and things like that. So anyway, they got into the toilets, and this guy came over, walked into the toilets. A few minutes later, what looked like he was coming out of the toilets, and he started to drag his rifle on the floor, and he was bending down to fasten up his tunic and heading towards the 2 guys that were guarding the main entrance to the building, you see. And we waited until he was just a few yards away. In fact, we waited until he was practically on top of them. And then we opened fire. When we did that, the lights went out. The 2 guards dashed inside the building. He dashed inside with them. So he dashed upstairs along the corridors to that office block at the end. He opened the door. He threw 2 grenades in. He killed everybody in the room when we were bombarding the place from outside. And I don't know exactly what he did inside the building, obviously, because I wasn't in the building. But when he came out, he was running across the courtyard towards the main gate, shouting in Arabic for him to open the doors. He had a little red light on his tunic, so we could recognize it was him. And when they opened the gates, and everybody, these troops were running towards the gate with him, our lads opened fire and killed most of them, and our chap got out. When he did that, he had 2 articles with him. At that time, I didn't see him, I just saw the bag he was carrying them in. He got up on the top of this mountain where we had been watching the compound. We got a larger bag, he put it in there, and then we went off to get across the River Jordan, you see. Now, the River Jordan was very, very deep at the time. It was very rough, and you couldn't get across it, really, unless you had the techniques that we had. It's in the book, by the way, how we did that. Everything's in the book. Well, most things are in the book. Telling you how we did all that, how we could get across the river without getting wet, how nobody could follow us. When we got across the other side of the river, it was nighttime. We hugged it together, saying...
John, you know what? We do have to take a break here. We're going to take a 4-minute break and then come right back. Where can, just so the listeners can know, where can they find your book at?
You can get it. You can only buy the book through me. You don't buy it off the internet because it's a forgery. You don't get it off Amazon. But get in touch with me, and my email address is john@ucsdefense.com. So if they email me, and that is also my PayPal account as well, so they can pay through that, you know.
Okay, awesome. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
You see, I grew up in America. I grew up in the land where phrases like, I have a dream, meant something. I grew up where I believed that freedom existed, that that's what I was fighting for, that our founding fathers made America the land of the free and the land of the brave. This is America, damn it, and I'm taking it back.
And now your host, Tere Joyce.
Welcome to the Freedom of Joyce show here on American Freedom Radio. Today, my guest is John Irwin. If you were listening to the show in the first hour, we're going to pick up where we left off here. And then hopefully move into the present day that we have going on. Because John, honestly, I've watched a few of John's interviews, and he was the ones that I found, the ones that come up the most on YouTube. I think the most recent one would be 2012, when we had a different political world happening. We had a different leader, and we were at a different point of awareness as a country. I do believe that more people are waking up, and we've spent a lot of the first hour just because I want the Freedom of Joyce listeners to get a full background on John. I realize that maybe this would be the first time that you've heard of this information, but if you or maybe even have heard of John himself, I do suggest all listeners to, if you were interested in a topic or a person, to research them and listen to various interviews that they do on other people's networks as well, so that you can become informed and formulate your own thought of what the truth of the information is. So I'd like to welcome back to the show John Irwin. Thank you again for being here today.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. All right, so we left off where you had, gone into the second phase of your training, and you also are talking about. Then we went past that, and we went into this mission that you're doing in
Jalapa.
Jalapa. Okay.
Jalapa, yeah. Okay. Yes. Again, at that stage, like I said, when we recovered the two objects that we were set out to get, which I didn't know at the time. I had no idea what we're really there for until we got across the downriver, the River Jordan. When we got on the other side of the River Jordan, we knew they couldn't follow us, but most of them had wiped out anyway. They were in serious trouble. So they'd be too busy trying to recover from it. When we got across the other side of the river, one of my team, Dynamo, I believe, said, "Did you get them?" And I kept on saying, "What did you get? You still haven't told us." They said, "Yes, we did get them." I said, "Oh, that's good." So I wrote that naive even then. So he brought his bag over. We all got our mats out and formed a circle over the top to drown the lights, because we were going to switch our torches, you call them flashlights. We switched them on, and he brought this box out, which is about 3 inches wide, 2 inches deep, and about 8 or 9 inches long. And it was black, and it looked like plastic. I don't know exactly what it was made of. And he was having a bit problems trying to open it. Well, one of my team says, "Give us it here." And he pressed something. It was like a trick box. And it came open very, very slowly. It was like a spring opening. And inside was red-violet material. He took out the red-violet material and put it on the ground and opened it up. And inside was 2 oblong, half-inch thick, 2 inches wide, like I say, about 8 inches long, just slightly smaller than the box itself. There was 2, they were green in colour, looked like glass. I wasn't allowed to touch them, but they looked like glass. On the top of these green tablets, these emerald green tablets, by the way, had long black lines running down them, very faint lines, like an old-fashioned record, you know, the old 75s?
Yeah.
It was a bit like that. And I says, you know, when we shine the light on them, the torches or the flashlights, what happened then, they seem to light up. They seem to have some kind of life to them, in the sense that they lit up, and then little round flashes of light came off them. It was a bit like, you know, the big ball that you find in the dance hall when it's spinning around, and the lights that reflected off that. It was a bit like that. We had these lights going around inside, you see.
A bit like a disco ball.
Yeah, like a disco ball. Yeah, exactly like that. Yeah, and that happened. He said, "That's them." I said, "Oh, that's good." I still had no really idea what this was really about. And I said, "We were after these in Egypt, weren't we?" And they said, "That's right, but you didn't need to know." So anyway, they picked one up, and he got out of his pocket. Imagine something. They were white. They were like the letter N, not the letter N, like a letter M. It was an inch wide, quarter of an inch thick, and it had a place where he could put his hand through. And when he put his hand through, on the top, where this band went across his hand, there was a little square box on the top that had glass in it that looked like a watch. When he put the plastic, when he put this plastic through it, passed it through underneath his hand, pictures appeared on the top. What I could see from where I saw letters and numbers, and then pictures of things as he was passing his thing through it. And he did that with the other one. He said, "That's them." And I was amazed because I hadn't seen anything like that before. And the only thing I was confused about, I says, "How did that light up?" I says, "Where's the batteries?" Now, don't forget, you go back to 1959, the only batteries I saw then was those huge 2 round batteries, big round batteries, 3 inches by an inch, with a bit of metal on the top and a bit of metal at the side. That's all I ever seen. I didn't realize there was smaller batteries, a lot smaller than that. I hadn't seen them before. So anyway, I was quite curious. He says, "We don't need batteries, John." He says, "You've got 250 volts in your 200 volts in your body. You know that, don't you?" And then suddenly I started to realize, it started to come to this, because it's like, see, I'm programmed with it. And then I started to realize what was happening. So anyway, they got these 2 tablets, wrapped them up in this material, put them back in the box, and then one of our lads, they call them runners, you give them to him, and he takes them away. Where they went, I have no idea. But I was given the impression there was more than 2 of them. There was around about 6 of them, all told. But as long as we had those 2, it meant that whoever was in possession of the others, they couldn't get all the information from them. They had to have all of them together, and they're interlocked with each other. If you look on the back of the book, I think I sent you a picture of it. If you look on the back of the book, you'll see that the tablets had grooves at the side which they could all connect with each other, interlock. So what they were actually put through, I have no idea. So again, that was advanced technology. I was told later on that they were literally thousands of years old, and that they actually came from the pyramids at some point, and that all the information, everything that was in the pyramids 2,500 years ago or more, had been ransacked. Everything in those pyramids that was visible or they could get to was taken away and destroyed. Everything, even the technology and how they were built. Everything was taken out of those pyramids. They didn't want you to find out.
Okay, exactly. I have a couple questions for you at this point. Now, you said that all the tablets weren't together. So there were other ones that were out. And were they making it like, are they trying to get all of them, or are they trying to keep them separate on purpose?
Yeah. No, they were trying to, the elite, whatever you want to call them, they were trying to get these tablets.
Okay, so they could come together and work like they're supposed to. Yeah,
so they get all the advanced technology.
What is in that technology? Is it a library, or
everything?
Is it
Everything that you're doing now, what you're looking at, what we're listening to, energy weapons, anti-gravity, everything is there. Everything. The problem they would have at the time, they wouldn't have the technology to be able to put that information together. They wouldn't know how to make the chips and things like this. They wouldn't know how to do that. So even if they had them, they wouldn't be able to use them until through length of time they would learn how to make these things to operate these tablets.
Okay, here's where my mind is going right now, because if you're talking about technology that was in the pyramids thousands of years ago, then that means that we were already advanced. There's a group of people that know this, and the people before us were already advanced, right?
That's right.
I mean,
exactly. That's how they built the pyramids, really.
Yeah.
Again, I don't want to go down that area at the moment.
Okay.
Like I say, if I can get the finances together, and I don't mean me personally, if I can get someone else to do it, even to put this film together, it would explain everything. I mean, everything. Understand what life is, what it's all about, what's so important about it, why the elite are trying to get rid of us. It's all there. Everything's there. Would be in this documentary film.
Why do you think that they're trying to? I mean, just in a nutshell. I mean, why? What, in your opinion, what is the motivation? Because to get rid of us.
The motivation, you say, you're going to be. You saw what goes on with people. People get killed all over. As soon as they get anywhere near the truth, you vanish, literally. I mean, you know that. You see? So again, let's explain. You've heard of, I've used words like the fifth race, if you like. There's another race, which, when they saw them, they used the name devil. That's where the word devil came from. That particular type of being is now running your country and ours, and now are trying to take over the world. That's as far as I want to go with that. That's as far as I want to go with that. You're in serious trouble. You have no idea the trouble that you're in. Again, I would like to get people together to be able to discuss this. Whoever comes my way will be vetted thoroughly. Believe you me, will have to be, because they've infiltrated just about every organisation. They're in control of the governments, they're in control of the armies, they're in control of every level of government, right down to the schools. That's how they can do what they do. That's why they're making everything a mess, and you can't do nothing about it. If you try to do anything about it, you're in serious trouble. You're going to be arrested, and that's how much power they've got. So
okay.
You've got to be very careful here.
We're talking about, because in some of the other videos that you I watched, you talked about seeing spaceships or flying ships as you were approaching.
All right. When we were on the way to Jalapa, right across the River Jordan to get there, when we just got across the other side of the River Jordan, I saw two large spheres, what appeared to be taken off from the ground. I didn't see them on the ground. I saw them in the air going upward as from the ground. These two were enormous things. I had no idea what they were. I hadn't seen anything like it before. I stood there in amazement, pointing my finger at them to the rest of my team, and not one of them looked up. Not one. Chalky, who was one of my team, came over and said, when I said, look at that, he says, yes, forget it, Jody. You didn't say anything. I said, but, he said, never mind, but. switch off, carry on doing what you're doing. Don't mention it again. That's it. That's as much as I saw. I haven't seen anything like it since. For the last 65 years, since I was in the army. I've never seen anything like it since. They wouldn't explain it. They wouldn't explain what I'd actually seen, but they seemed to know all about it. They weren't surprised. I was the only one that was surprised. And don't forget, the 16 had been going a lot longer, prior to me joining. They've been going since 1952. They did operations right through even Europe. They did operations in Europe that wasn't explained to us in detail, but I was showing certain things that they did and why they did it. But it had been going quite a long time before so apparently one of the 16, they needed a replacement, and I happened to be a replacement. So I fitted their needs. So I have trouble speaking English. You see, I wouldn't normally talk like this. You wouldn't know what the hell I was talking about. That's what I talk like. You wouldn't know what I was talking about.
Okay.
You understand? I would say you didn't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Well, I mean, I guess not. But you are. I mean, I'm. What you're saying right now, I'm understanding it as much as you can.
That's why you can't connect everything up. It's difficult. I understand that. But again, like I said, I saw those two flying objects. I had no idea what they were. I had no idea who was flying them. I understand that they were using what you would call anti-gravity. But anti-gravity can only work where there's gravity. They can't operate outside of space. And that's the story. That's what the story I want to get out.
Well, when you mentioned that, like he said, well, where's the battery? And the guy says, it's your body is the battery. It really makes us, realize how archaic our own means of energy is.
Explain something that might help you to work on that, okay? Your heart and your body relies on the electricity that's in your body. Your brain uses electricity to be able to operate the body. It sends signals through the body. Now, this is why you never went to the moon. You've never been in space. You never can go there. It's not possible for us to go into space. They're not going to like that, but you can't. Your body is built to survive on this planet. Your blood pressure, that's why when you go in airplanes, they have to pressurize the cabin because you'll explode, literally. So again, your electricity, you don't plug in at night to get charged up. But your body, when you eat food, produces certain energies, molecules that race around your body, and the energy field that's around you, which is all around you, the energy supply that people talk about, this free energy, is what your body gets its supply from. You go up anywhere near space, which you can't get there, but if you did, your body would go flat immediately. You would die. You would end up like a shriveled up prune. So all this business about space is absolute nonsense. But they've got people believing in it. They go through a great deal to try and convince you that it's for real, but it's not. Whether people like that or not, just look at yourself. You can't really go anywhere, unless you're suffering something. The body is so sensitive. Don't forget you have the pressure of air around you. It's just like if you go to the oceans, you have to have protection. If you go deep, you have the pressure. And you've got to understand that the pressure of air is only on the top, on the surface of the earth. I'm not a scientist, so I can't explain it properly, but the pressure of air is only on the surface. The higher you go up, the less air there is. That's why I'm a pilot. I fly airplanes. I understand exactly what it's all about. When you get up to a certain height, like 35,000 feet, is when airplanes can get up the speeds that they wouldn't be able to do say at 3,000 feet or 5,000 feet, they just wouldn't be able to do it. They'd be ripped apart. So there was no aeroplanes hit the towers, none at all. So again, the pressure is below, not above. You've got to ask yourself, how come if it's air, why is it so powerful on the face of the earth rather than, the higher you go, you'd think it would be the same, but it's not. It's anything but, you see. So it works in the same as the oceans. The deeper you go, the more pressure there is. It's the same when you're up in the air, you come down. The deeper you go into the air, the stronger the pressure becomes. So we're sitting, you could say, like pretend we're at the bottom of the ocean and we live here in this pressure. So if you took all the air out of a can or even out of a steel object, it would get crushed. Your body has been built and designed to withstand that. The second you go up to certain heights, you would explode, literally. That's why you've got blood pressure you have. All of that is designed to withstand the pressure that's around you now, sitting right where you are. People's got to start understanding what we are. We're a biological and chemical machine. We can't go anywhere. So all that rubbish about preparing for space, forget it. Literally, use your common sense. You've got a body, you should understand it. You should understand how it works. And like I said, you will die one day, but...
So what kind of vessel, okay, let's say, now you, and I understand that you're not sure if those flying objects were actual our planes or if it was extraterrestrial. So if there's extraterrestrials coming in and out of our atmosphere, then what kind of body do they have?
Synthetic.
They have a synthetic body.
Yeah, they even switch off to be able to get through. Don't forget, they can't do this willy-nilly.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Let's say, could there be a person who has a body like ours be using a synthetic body to go into a craft and then coming back? Are they sending synthetic versions of themselves from an anchored area coming through?
No, that's exactly what they want you to believe. But again, most of these stories that you hear are from conspiracy theories, and people invent them. You see, people have a tendency to do. It's like people always exaggerate things, and this is where the problem lies. The truth is very hard to believe, I know, but people have a tendency to. It's like Max Spears, for instance. Miles Johnson interviewed Max Spears one day, and Max Spears said, "Since the age I was 5, I've been having hallucinations." And he says, my parents wouldn't help us. That's on record. You can get that video film. It's on the air. You can get it. Where he says, I've been having hallucinations since I was 5. I wouldn't get any help, so I took up drugs. Then he became an alcoholic. He was dependent on alcohol as well as drugs. When he died because his stomach either exploded, it bursted, or he had an ulcer that bursted, and that's why he had black stuff coming out of his mouth. He wasn't killed. He didn't have any information that was of any use whatsoever. The lad needed help, and he's being abused by the conspiracy theorists. The man met James Casbolt. I know James Casbolt. I didn't know Max Spears, but I know James Casbolt in prison now. He's got one of my books, but I've spoken to him, and he has no idea. He's got no experience at all in anything, because I've tested him. I put him to the test. He knows nothing about security. He knows nothing about anything. I know he was married to one of the Rothschilds, but that doesn't make him of any real importance. Them lads they played together when they were 7. Both of them did. They met each other when they were 7, and they were playing on all these hi-fi games. And I think they got most of their stories from fairy tales. Literally. The lad's in jail now. I tried to advise him before he went into prison, because he was doing everything wrong. I says, I did advise him. I can't say too much about that, but I did advise him. And what did Miles do? He stood on camera outside the prison, getting the man to come back to to say that he had actually killed people in Hyde Park, which he didn't. And he was really committing suicide on camera, committing suicide in a way. You know, he needed help. And Miles was doing the complete opposite. He was making a fool of the lad. So I get angry with that. I like the truth. We have to dig up the truth. It's the same when Sean came up with the same name. I know I'm getting off the subject. I said to Sean, you know, Willie Piper, and you know other people, top wrestlers. And I said, why don't you put me through a test? Any test you like. Get these people to put me through a test, either physically or mentally, in regards to what I was doing. That still stands with Sean Stone. Now, that was 4 years ago, and he hasn't done it. But he said, I was quite prepared for them to put me through any test they like, you see? But it never came about. They don't want to know the truth. They really don't.
Okay, so I want to go. We've got maybe another half an hour left for the show. We finished up at 5 minutes to the hour, so we've got a little bit more time.
I must agree. I've had to because I don't want to talk about them because they're all very, very sensitive. And you see, the art of self-defense is the element of surprise. You do not educate the enemy, and that's exactly what I would be doing. So I don't want to do that. You see, but
right,
again,
I understand.
Get credibility. I was invited over to Egypt, which is in the book, pictures in the book. By the way, it's a hardback book. There's lots of evidence in there, lots of pictures, where I was invited over to Egypt, to the 3-7s, that's their special forces in Nasser City. And the reason why they invited us over there, they had found a body on the side of the Nile in Marsh, and it was still preserved. And I had said in the book what we did to those soldiers. I'd actually taken 3 of his fingers off with a weapon I had. And I said that in the book, and I told them roughly where I buried him, you see. Well, the military, they found a body there, and they invited me over. They wanted to see me, and they wanted to talk about Jalapa, because, like I said, Jalapa has been taken off the map. They don't want you to know about Jalapa. You see, it really don't want you to know because it's at the foot of Mount Hermon, right, where the fallen angels came. So they don't want you to know about that. And again, when I went over to Egypt, I put a demonstration on for them on in regards to hostage taken and the recovery of them hostages. I got a medal off them. I got a big scroll off them saying I was the best counter-terrorist expert in the world. And I went there, I took the risk of going there because they could have arrested us. I took the risk because I needed credibility, and that's the only reason why I went. I've also had our special forces, SAS, majors, I'll not mention their names, but I've got contracts here, right next to us now, where they want these skills. So again, I'm an educated guy. I had to prove that what I said was true. And that was the only way I could do it. So that's why I went on to various conspiracy programs to draw attention to these people, which I did. A security company in London, one of the top ones, wanted my skills. And the guy that owns that security company, I'll not mention the name, is an ex-special forces, a major. He then sent me to Hereford to put us through a test. Now, I only went along with that because I needed credibility. So I went down to their camp, their training quarters, and they got their main instructor out. They came out with weapons of all sorts. I explained about some of the strategy. I disarmed them. They couldn't stop us. And this particular officer stopped it. He says, I recommend this to this company. I had to go up to John's place to find out more about this, but I haven't got time at the moment. What he meant was he didn't want anyone else to see what I could do, you see? So they came up here, they came up with contracts for me to sign. And I proved that was what was in the books, the stories that I said about locking people in rooms, killing people, locking people in the rooms, but I was on the outside in the corridors when I was locking the doors, putting keys in people's pockets to make it look like suicide so we could walk out the country without people chasing us, without having half the Russian army in Egypt at the time chasing us. They came up here and they put us through the test. And they thought I had exaggerated that until I did it to him sitting in my office. He got the shock of his life. He just couldn't believe it. He says, why don't we know this? Anyway, I got, they signed the contract, but I didn't. I kept it. I kept the contracts. I've got them here right in front of us. And I told them I had no intention of training them because they're a bunch of idiots, these special forces, because everything they know, you'll find on YouTube. They've lost the element of surprise. They're not very good at what they do. And if they get special weapons, they even sell them to the enemy. And they end up getting killed by their own technology. That's how silly they are. So they didn't get any information of us. They only saw me that I could do it. And I got that in writing of them. So I've got that here. I've got pictures of them with us. And I also went to South Africa as well with the chief of police down there, and I got that credibility as well. So that's why I did all of that, was to get credibility because, like I said, I'm not an educated guy. I have no background, you see. So I had nothing to back me up whatsoever. They thought I was somebody with a fairy tale. But I wanted to prove to them, and I can prove that everything I've done is true. And I can prove this.
So, okay, so let's just recap everything and then bring us forward today. You were in a special ops program, special secrets force, military that was against the Illuminati back
against
in...
the British government, against the British Army.
Against the British Army.
Well, not against the British Army, but against the British governments.
Okay.
Right?
And the Bilderbergers and what their agenda is going on. And I think everybody, we know, like most people who listen to American Freedom Radio know that the Georgia Guidestones and the FEMA coffins and really the agenda of elimination. There was a point that I want to bring up about, you said that there were three different countries, or not just countries, but three different worlds that our races were seated on this planet. And so is some of this war going on between everybody have to do with the different extraterrestrial races that have hybrided our races here on the planet?
Yeah, let's explain them.
Okay.
There are planets out there which have life forms, and they're doing exactly what we're doing. We're overbreeding, we're destroying the planet, and that's what they did with their planets. And by that time, they had the ability to go to other planets, but they found that they couldn't sustain their life forms here, like Nephilim when they came here. That's why you found their bodies just about everywhere. Again, that's the problems these other planets, these people living on other planets, or these other creatures living on other planets, eventually they destroy their own planet. And that's what they're doing here. They've destroyed their planet, they want this one, and they're trying to change the atmosphere to fit their Gog, who's we known as God, which is going to appear again, but he can't get here. Be careful. Yeah, they can't get here because they haven't changed the environment to fit his...
okay, so we have we've got another group of people who have their God from another planet. They want to come into here. They can't make the transition, but are they hybrid? Like they hybrided with us, though, right? I mean, we have some people walking around with their DNA.
That's right. They've interbred with remember the fallen angels.
Yes.
The Bible is the blueprint of the New World Order. The Bible is the blueprint. So anything you want to know what's going to happen, you read the Bible, because it'll tell you what they're going to do next, because they wrote it. You see, God isn't God. It was Gog. Gog is the rank of a chap called Lucifer. That's his name, Lucifer. If you go to the Vatican, you find that they worship Lucifer. Put that in. The Vatican worships Lucifer. They've even got a statue of him in the Vatican. They're telling you, why do you think they wear these skull caps and these long hats for? It's all in repetition of the Nephilim. That's what they're talking about. So again, Lucifer, his father, is Satan. And that's who's coming back.
Okay.
Satan is coming back. That's what they're talking about. Don't take my word for it. They'll tell you. The Baphomet start. The Baphomet. I'm getting off the subject here because
no. You're right on the subject because I wanted to know how this all matched up. So you're connecting the dots for me. Thank you.
You know the Baphomet.
Yes.
That took its shape, its proper form, in around 1920 something or 30, right? This is where they got the idea from. Now, prior to that, the Baphomet had a goat's head and goat's feet, and like man's arms. But they came up with the other idea of half man, half woman, half animal. That's what they're doing at this very moment. They're actually doing it. They want you to interbreed, to destroy the races. They want you to destroy the races, the cultures, and they want men to be like women. They're even going to fix it so your soul ends up into an animal. That's what it's all about. It's controlling the souls to where they go. You see, and here's something else I'll bring up now before I forget. I'm getting off the subject a little bit. You know that they said that they found another compartment in the top of the pyramids. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, well, it's in the newspapers just recently that scientists have discovered that there's another there's another room that they believe that's in the top of the pyramids. I knew that 65 years ago. About 20 years ago, I was telling the lads that I trained, because I used to train people in parachuting, skydiving and take them on survival courses and all that sort of thing. And I was telling them then that certain people, that there was another room at the top of the pyramids that they haven't found yet, and it's called the Golden Room. And I've got proof of that. I've got plenty of witnesses to say that I said this 15 years ago. These people are still alive, so the other ones are dead. So people from 15 years ago, I've got at least 8 people that can confirm that I said there was another room at the top of the pyramids, and it's called the Golden Room. And it has a special purpose, and they've come across it. And the elite won't want you to know about this. So what they'll do now is they'll make excuses to say that if you try to reach that particular part of the pyramid, it's going to weaken the structure and some of it will fall down. That'll be the excuse. Check that up and you'll find that's exactly what they will start doing to prevent you from knowing about that room, because they couldn't find it. But now they've discovered through modern technology, through x-rays or whatever they use, and they've discovered that there's something there. They'll go right off the subject now. Just you watch. It was in the Daily Mail in this country. I'll find it for you and I'll send it to you. Right?
Okay.
Check it up. And you'll find that all the excuses under the sun will come out now to stop you from investigating any further. These guys come across it accidentally, and they brought it to the public, and they realised that it's that room that I was talking about. They knew about it, but they didn't know where it was, and they couldn't get to it. Now they'll do everything in their power. Now they'll get right up to the subject. It never happened, but I'll send you some proof that it did happen, that they did find it. But I've noticed recently nobody said anything about it. They don't want you to know about it, but it is there, and I can tell you exactly. There's not just one room. There's 3 rooms together. There's 3 rooms, each one connected to the other. I can't tell you exactly. I know what they're there for. I know how they were used, but I don't want to go into that. I want to get this film put together which will explain everything, even that. It'll tell you everything that's gone on in the last 2,500 years. And again, like I said, what people has learned over the last 2,500 years, it's the whole life's built around it. So there's going to be a lot of angry people because the whole livelihood depends on it, and it's going to be a big pill to swallow. That everything they know is a lie, and you're being conned all the time. And you have to be, like I said, the reason why I wanted the truth out, and I had to counteract what Miles said, because there's a lot of people, armchair commandos I call them, sitting out there just waiting for any excuse to pull whatever you say to bits. There's thousands of them out there prepared to do that. And I've often said to people like yourself, the enemy's all around you. They're called people. They get dressed up. They live across the road. They live next door. They're all out to rob and steal off you. They get dressed up as policemen and soldiers. You see? You can't trust them. And because people believe that when life comes to an end, that is it. But they're so wrong. And that's exactly why people sell their souls to the devil, if you like. They want to enjoy themselves now because they think that at the end they're going to die and that'll be it. No, they're completely wrong. Completely wrong. That's why you have children. You do come back, believe us. You do come back. And they're trying to stop that.
So what you're saying is when we have children, we're coming back into that's how we come back. We come back through the same vessel. Are we coming back through the same vessel of our own DNA from the beginning?
Well, yeah, what you do is you have children. Somewhere along the line, if them children having more children, somewhere along the line, your DNA matches. You see? And that's when Miles Johnson brought the subject up, because I told him about the pineal gland. When it's fully developed, the pineal gland opens, the energy and soul enters into the body. They've been fixing it. They've been messing about with that. That's why, as Miles said, you get the energy and soul enter into a baby boy that should be a baby girl. And that's why you have some poor creatures walking about there who know that they're a girl and they're in a man's body, and they have to go through all these operations getting their body changed to, because that is really cruelty. That's the worst kind of cruelty, and that's what they're after. They're after destroying humans, and they even now they've got them so that they're entering into animals. It is horrific, really. It's terrible. We've got to do something about it. People have got to wake up. I know this is what I'm saying is so bizarre, but think about it. You're alive, but you were dead before, weren't you? Where were you 100 years ago? Where were you? You believe me, you cannot leave this planet. You're on this planet. There's millions and millions of souls from different races. This is why sometimes there's a lot of babies being born dead, because the energy is still in the body somewhere. And you can have lots of babies born dead. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. And the doctors are confused. They're surprised. They can't understand it. There's a real explanation for that. And it does happen on a fairly regular basis. So again, you call the third world because the way they look, and I'm not condemning the mind. I believe in protecting the races. This is why they speak the way they look, why the language is so different, because they're called the third world, and when they come across the borders, we call them illegal aliens. It hasn't sunk in yet. It hasn't sunk in. And the elite are trying to destroy that. They're trying to mix them to the point where they're unrecognizable. They don't realize they're destroying themselves in their own, they're literally destroying themselves. And this is what they're up to. That's what they're doing right here in this country now. They're mixing the races, and it's the worst thing you possibly do. I've got nothing against the races. I believe in protecting them. when you call the racist, the only racist is the elite. They're trying to destroy them. We must protect them. That's what makes the world the way it is. It's a lot more serious than what you could ever imagine.
Well, what comes to mind now? I know that if you look at how this is a whole nother topic. There's so much to talk about. I hope that sometime you'll come back on the show. I've a lot of questions. I personally have a lot of questions to ask you. We're gonna end the show here in about 9 minutes, and before we do close out on the show, I do want to give you an opportunity to give really clearly give your links and places where people can go to. They can maybe donate to you or contact you about creating the film project. So please take a moment to do that.
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Okay,
to do it now?
Yeah, say it. Yeah.
Well, my email address is john@ucsdefense.com. That defense is spelled with a C, by the way. ucsdefense.com. That's my email address. If the contact is through my email, they can also pay for the book through PayPal. That is my PayPal account as well. The book is rather expensive, you see, and it's especially to America, because it cost me £13 just to send the damn thing to America. So I've knocked the price down of the book. The book is a hardback, top quality. It's the best quality I could get. It costs you about £5,000 to get them printed. You can only buy them through me. I've got the rights to the book back from the company that was publishing it. And they were publishing a very small book, softback, so a lot of the information wasn't in there. I've had that over the last 8 years. They've been trying to stop the book. They've done everything in their power not to sell it. They've made a mockery of it. They've changed the story. They've done everything to stop that book from getting out. But the only way they can buy it is, like I say, get in touch with me through my email address. That's john@ucsdefense.com. It's a hardback book. It's got pictures in. It has evidence. It adds up to the stories that's in the book. And again, the book is rather expensive in a way, but I've cut the price down because I know that it's a lot of money to pay for a book. So it's going to cost about 12 English pounds from America. But again, they'll have to pay for the postage and packaging, and that's £13. So I don't know what that is in dollars, but it's £13 just to send the book. That's because it's a heavy book. It's a very good quality. But in England, it costs, I think it's £16. That's with postage and packaging. But I don't know the exact money it would cost to send it to America. So that's it, really. And if they want to pay for it and pay through PayPal, or they can put it in my bank account or whatever.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, you've given a lot of information today and a lot to contemplate as well. Now, what is your main reason for telling us this? What is it that you're trying to help humanity with?
Well, that's why I'm telling you. Do you think I want to listen? I'm 79 years of age. I couldn't have brought this story out a few years ago because the evidence wasn't available like it is now, with YouTube and what have you. But there's so much lies in it. It's incredible. Flat earthers and all that sort of thing. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's silly. Again, I can understand it. People are easy fooled, and they're being conned all the time. And like I say, why I'm doing this, I like life, and I know I can get back, but I know these people are trying to stop it. That's why. Do
you believe that? I mean, because I know I've. Are you still offering training? I know that, I saw an interview.
Again, what I do is I try and advise people, survivalists, if you like, how to survive whatever is coming. I can train him in that way. But to actually learn the machine, you would have to go through something like I did, because it takes a long time to see. Yes, your conscious brain is your problem. Your conscious brain is aware of what's going on, and it gets confused. That's why students like to be locked away in a quiet room where they can concentrate, you see. So this is why they stopped my conscious brain from getting in the way and supplied me subconscious brain, because it's a recorder. It records everything that's directly into the conscious brain. But now they've admitted that they can do that. It's been on the news that scientists have found a way on how to educate you by using some kind of equipment on your head, where they can make you learn to play a piano within a day. So that information's coming out, what they did to me then. You see, so it's possible for them to...
That sounds fun, actually.
Yeah, well, you check up on that.
Seriously.
Seriously, they can do that.
I would love to download stuff like that.
But they can do it now. They've already admitted to that. So that'll help me, because I've been saying that for the last 65 years. But now they can do it, you see. So this is why I'm coming out with it, because ways and means of proving what I'm saying is for real. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do.
And like I said, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is because my life depends on it.
Yes.
I mean, do you understand? It's when you're born again, you're not meant to remember your previous lives, because what would be the point? You're here to experience life, and you wouldn't be able to do that if you're already aware of life and what it was, you see. So when you die, your subconscious brain rewinds. It cleans itself, you see. But so the Egyptians, there was photographs of Egyptians being hit on the head. I'll have to go and explain that to you.
Is that the ankh? Are you talking about hitting on the head with their ankh energetically?
Well, let's put it this way. If you get knocked down and you're killed instantly and your head gets crushed, what you remember previous to that, when you come back, that's what you remember. That's why you can get a 5-year-old walks up to the piano and plays Mozart. That's why, because he died. It was the way he died. The brain didn't have time. The subconscious brain didn't have time to rewind. So in that space of time, say a few minutes, the memory was still there on how he did. The memory's still there. There was a young lad in Scotland who was 7 years of age, went out to one of the islands. He was telling his mother he lived before. They went out to Urwin in Barra, I should say, on Outer Hebrides, and he took them to the house where he used to live.
All right, so I want to ask a question. If you are your subconscious mind, does your subconscious mind, once you incarnate again, okay, you come back and get into another body, does your subconscious mind hold your memories that you had before, even though your conscious mind can't remember them? You came in with skills that you had from the other lives?
When you die, you see your whole life passes in front of you.
Yeah.
Well, it is. That's your subconscious rewinding. It goes blank. You see, completely blank. So when you come back, you don't know nothing. But if you're killed before that brain has time to rewind or delete the program that's in your head, if it hasn't got time, that's what you remember when you come back. That's what you remember when you come back. That's how, they can say, some children, if you look at some children, they can walk up to the piano and start playing it, or pick a violin up and start playing it immediately, and they haven't been taught it.
Like Mozart, basically. He was probably after Mozart.
Check it up. How many children, without being taught, has walked up to the piano or whatever and been able to.
Totally. You know what? We ran out of time. Thank you so much for being on the Freedom of Joyce show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I will be back Thursday, same time, same, I was going to say bat channel, but great channel. Okay, bye. I wanted to make this video today. I'm Tere Joyce. Welcome to the show. This show is titled A Letter to James Casbolt. I was contacted by John Irwin. And if you're not familiar with who John Irwin is, go ahead and Google him. He was part of the Special Forces in the UK. He was called by James Casbolt. Now, I feel like I have to tell people who James Casbolt is really quickly, because what I'm talking about is a fringe topic. It's not... I'm not talking about Robert Mueller or Seth Rich or anybody in, Nancy Pelosi or Gavin Newsom or the Getty family that has been running or funding California politics. These are not the topics that I'm discussing right now. I'm talking about a fringe aspect of our media. And there's, a man named James Casbolt that's in prison that was put back into maximum security. And he represents I guess what you would call, he's part of the UFO conspiracy community that is online. I don't really like to say the word conspiracy because, the word conspiracy has just become... a weapon against the truth media, the media that we're actually really in. And but I guess those of you who know who James Casbolt is and know why he's in prison and that he's a super soldier, which is a phrase that has been coined by a woman named Carrie Cassidy with Project Camelot. And a lot of the people that, she's interviewed really prefer not to be called a super soldier. They prefer, like, for example, a Duncan O'Finian calls himself a CIA augmented admin. Now, not quite as glamorous as the word super soldier, and probably not as profitable when you're branding and marketing super soldier over the internet, but that is a term that I've heard. But we're talking about people who were in possibly CIA programs, MK Ultra, assassins and things like this that were groomed since children through trauma-based mind control, which again, we do know that is also real, and there's a lot of whistleblowing going on with this particular situation. Get James Casbolt and even the letter from John Irwin and Miles, sitting in front of, now making a quick blast, everybody. James Casbolt called me, and then here's a message of James Casbolt leaving a message like, oh, well, the reason why I was taken to maximum security is because somebody made up a phony story out there that I was sending somebody out to deal with Theresa May and the Brexit situation in Britain. And here's Miles on the phone looking at it like, oh, Since this happened, there have been several women that have come forward to me talking about harassment from James Casbolt or have been in relationships with James Casbolt and how he went kind of psycho on them, etc. And that is, to my knowledge, he did that to his ex-wife. That she was socially, there was a social media type of cyberbullying that involved naked photos, etc. I mean, that's to my understanding, using social media, and so he's being punished for that. And there was what I heard was that there was some information that was passed through James Casbolt, through somebody who was associated with this media, about how when he got out of prison, he was going to go after a certain individual who was a woman who is, I think, part of the reason why, or was close to the incident of why he's in prison in the first place. And what's really going on is that there are subdomains and networks that connect Miles Johnston, that connect Kerry Cassidy, that connect former White Hat website, that connect freedomslips.com, that connect Off Planet TV. All these people are basically misrepresenting themselves, and they are running a racket. They are doing something deceptive to you. Alex Collier that is not his name. His name is Ralph, I believe it's Armagron. Alex Collier was launched by Kerry Cassidy on Project Camelot. He's a phony UFO speaker talking about the Andromedans. He actually went to prison for tax fraud. He worked for the IRS. And and one of the things that he did was he took Social Security numbers and actually, gave them to phony accounts, like that maybe they were dead people, whatever. But he ran a scam. He went to prison, and now Kerry Cassidy has launched him into a new career, and he is part of the Idlewild group. The Idlewild group is all these different types of websites. They all connect under a main domain number. So they all seem to be somewhat connected to each other in some way. And they're all in cahoots with each other. That's my assessment. It's like boom, 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 boom. What's going on here? Just look where the smoke or the drama or the fire is taking place here. These people can sit back in front of a camera and tell you whatever they want, and make up stories to cover up the fact that they're just fraudsters, acting like they have special information for you and I to realize what the real truth is in our society. They don't. Not only do they not have it, they're actually phony people taking your money, going all over the country, and poisoning something that we call the truth media. We are living in a time where YouTube is wanting to take down what's fake online to actually because we are the perpetrator to the lie of their deception of what's going on in global politics right now. And I find it very offensive that there are people out there like a Kerry Cassidy or a Miles Johnston that could come out and use disinformation, misrepresent themselves, and run a pornography racket in the background and not even disclose it. So yeah, there's a letter from John Irwin going to James Casbolt. Why? Because he's telling James Casbolt, you have to stop talking to Miles Johnston. And I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. I'm not going to teach you my special techniques because you're not in the right frame of mind to even handle the responsibility of knowing the knowledge that John Irwin has. But that's really beside the point, people. There's something much, much deeper going on right here. And I behoove you to open your mind and think twice about the people that you've been donating to. Thank you so much and have a good day.